The key was cold in my hand when I realized it no longer opened anything that was mine. I stood in the hallway of a house I'd lived in for 9 years. Photographs on the wall. A vase I'd chosen in Florence. Every object exactly where I'd placed it. And none of it, not a single thing, was what I thought it was. Neither was he. My name is Clara. I'm not a detective. I'm not someone who goes looking for trouble. I'm a woman who spent 10 years believing in a story because the alternative, the real story, was too monstrous to hold in 2 hands at once. What I'm about to tell you isn't a betrayal. It's something much older and much worse than that. It's a debt, and I didn't know I was the collateral. 10 years ago, everything I had was taken from me in under 4 seconds. A rainy Tuesday night, a car that spun off a guardrail. My parents were in the front seat. I was in the back. The accident report used the word freak. Loss of control on wet roads. No other vehicles identified. Closed case. I was 22 and I had nothing left. Renato appeared in that nothing. He was a junior associate at my father's law firm, someone I had seen maybe twice at company dinners, someone who occupied the background the way most peripheral people do. But in the weeks after the accident, he became a constant. He brought food I didn't eat. He sat with me in rooms where I couldn't speak. He handled the legal paperwork, wills, insurance, property transfers that I couldn't even look at without my hands starting to shake. He told me I had a strength I hadn't found yet, and that he would wait for it. A broken girl of 22 will believe a man who says that. I believed him completely. We fell in love, or what I understood love to be, which, I now know, is only ever what we've been taught to expect. Our marriage was, by every external measure, a success. Renato was attentive, generous, professionally admired. He supported my art gallery without hesitation. He charmed every person in every room. My friends envied me. My sister, my younger sister, Laura, who had always carried a low, unspecified resentment toward my perfect circumstances, even she seemed softened by him. He helped her with rent, co-signed for her car, was always, he said, just checking in on her. I had no reason to look underneath any of it. I was happy. I thought. A week before our anniversary trip to Italy, a statement arrived from a bank we didn't use. I almost threw it away. Something not intuition exactly, more like a splinter catching on fabric made me open it. A high-yield savings account in Renato's name, one I had never heard of. The balance was significant, but it wasn't the amount that stopped my breath. It was the pattern. For 10 years, on the 15th of every month, a deposit of exactly $2,000. On the 16th, a withdrawal of the same amount. Every month, without exception. I asked him about it over dinner, trying to keep my voice level. He smiled, the smile never changed, and said it was an old investment account, day trading, boring stuff. I wouldn't be interested. He kissed my forehead and redirected us to our dinner reservation. I wanted to believe him. I almost did. But the precision of it stayed with me. Boring investments don't move the exact same way for 10 years. And they definitely don't feel alive. I started watching, quietly. The way you watch something when you don't yet have a name for what you're afraid of. His phone, always face down on the nightstand. Calls taken behind closed doors. Voice low, words impossible to make out. One night I couldn't sleep, the bank statement cycling through my mind, and I went to his office. His laptop was open. I opened our family phone plan records. There was a number, called almost every other day. Late at night, sometimes only a minute, sometimes 30. I typed the number into my own phone. A contact photo appeared. Laura, my sister. The room didn't spin. It went very still. I sat there in the dark with the laptop light on my face, and I felt sick. Not shocked, not even angry yet. Just sick. The secret account, the monthly deposits and withdrawals, The late calls with my sister, the sister he'd been so quietly, consistently generous with. The pieces weren't separate. They were a single image I'd been too close to see. $2,000 a month, every month, for 10 years. $240,000. I actually sat there trying to do the math twice. Like maybe I'd misunderstood something. But I hadn't. Not passion money. Not a transaction between people in love. A payment schedule. Structured. Contractual. The kind of arrangement you make with someone who knows something they agreed to forget. After that, I stopped feeling comfortable in my own house. I smiled at dinner. I talked about Italy. Inside, I was pulling on every thread I could find. I ordered a GPS tracker online and put it in the lining of his briefcase. On the 16th, the day after each monthly withdrawal, I watched his location on my phone. He left his office downtown and drove across the city to a neighborhood I'd never had reason to visit. He stopped outside a small, unremarkable house. Laura's address. I remember looking at her contact photo for a long time, like my brain was refusing to connect the pieces. The confirmation was not a surprise. It was worse than a surprise. It was a door locking shut behind me. I knew I couldn't confront them, not without the last piece. Because the one question I couldn't yet answer was the only one that mattered. What secret had my sister agreed to keep? What could be worth a decade of silence, of watching me build a life beside the man who was paying her to stay quiet? My mind kept returning to the night of the accident. The official report: loss of control on wet roads. No other vehicles identified. But Renato had been one of the first people there. He told me he heard it on a police scanner, a detail I'd always found slightly odd for a corporate lawyer, a detail I had filed away and never reopened. He was the one who held my hand in the ambulance. He was the one who found me in the wreckage. The thought didn't hit me all at once. It built slowly, and once it started, I couldn't stop seeing it. The anniversary of my parents' death came, as it always does, like a bruise you forget until you press it. Renato told me he had an early meeting he couldn't reschedule. He kissed me, his eyes full of what I had, for 10 years, read as sympathy, and said he'd be back by noon. We would go to the cemetery together, like always. I let him leave. Then I followed him. He didn't go to his office. He stopped at a flower shop. Then he drove 20 miles out of the city to a small church graveyard I had never seen. I parked at a distance and watched through binoculars I'd bought the week before. He walked to the far back of the cemetery, to a section of simple, weathered headstones. He placed the flowers, and then he sank to his knees. His shoulders began to shake. He raised his face toward the sky, that raw, upward cry of a person speaking to someone they've given up asking forgiveness from, and I heard it from across the field. I'm sorry, God. I am so sorry. It should have been me. I never meant. I was just a kid. I was speeding. I panicked. I set down the binoculars. The world didn't spin. It just stopped making sense. Every fact I had accumulated over 10 years shifted 1 degree, and suddenly the picture was entirely different. He hadn't happened upon the accident. He had caused it. I remember staring at his back from across the cemetery. I kept thinking the same thing over and over. That's my husband. That's the man I trusted. He hadn't been the man who pulled me from the wreckage. He was the reason there was wreckage to be pulled from. He was 25, drunk, speeding home from an office party. He clipped our car, sent it into the guardrail, saw the flames, and drove away. Then, days later, racked with guilt, he found out who the victims were, a senior partner at his own firm. He saw my photograph in the company newsletter, the only person who made it out alive, and he made a plan, not out of malice, or so he told himself. Out of the kind of cowardice that pretends to be love, he would get close to me. He would dedicate his life to making me whole. He would atone for what he had done without ever being held responsible for having done it. He told Laura about a year into our marriage, a moment of weakness, he said, the weight of it becoming unbearable, and my sister, my own blood, looked at the secret she'd been handed, and named her price. $2,000 a month. 10 years of silence. $240,000 to keep her sister asleep inside a beautiful lie. When he came home, I was sitting in the dark. The bank statements, the phone records, a photograph of my parents arranged on the coffee table in front of me. He knew. Before I said a single word, he knew. The color drained from his face. He said my name. "Don't," I said. My voice was flat. It surprised me how flat it was. Was it worth it? Your perfect life, built on their graves? He collapsed. He told me everything: the party, the rain, the impact, the panic, the way he'd convinced himself over years that what he was doing was penance, that love could be built on top of ruin and still be real. He said his guilt and his love had grown so intertwined he no longer knew where one ended and the other began. He said he was my prisoner, not my husband. He wept. He begged. I looked at him for a long time. At the man I had slept beside for 9 years. The man whose hands I had held in airports, in hospitals, at his mother's funeral. I looked at him and I felt nothing that resembled what I was supposed to feel. No rage. No grief. Something colder. The kind of clarity that only comes when you finally stop lying to yourself. He didn't save my life. He stole it. He stole the years I spent trying to rebuild my life on something that was never real. He stole my parents, and then he stole my sister. He built our entire life on top of what he did. And for years, I believed it was real. The confrontation with Laura was short. She didn't deny it. She tried to justify it: her rent, her bills, how Renato was only trying to do the right thing, how it wasn't as simple as it looked. I looked at the person I'd grown up with and I saw someone I did not know. I told her she was dead to me, and I meant it in the way you can only mean something once. The money has stopped. The truth is out. There is no relief in it, not the kind the word promises. There is no neat ending, no moment where the weight lifts and the air clears. There is only me, standing in the ruins of a life for the second time. The first time I was 22 and I didn't know whose hands had done it. This time I know exactly. And this time, I will not mistake the person who helps me rebuild for the person who belongs there. For 10 years, I thought he saved my life. Now I know he was just trying to survive what he did to it. And somehow, that hurts even more.
If stories like this stay in your mind long after the video ends, subscribe to Torn Pages, because some pages were never meant to be opened.